Hello, Los Angeles. How the hell are you? Oh, you've been better? Oh, that's funny. We've been better too, just not lately. As fans of LAFC, supporters, if you will, losses to three crap teams. The worst team in MLS, who happens to be our external and eternal rivals. An uncharacteristic, I can't speak, and that verklept. An uncharacteristic loss at home to the pesky pine trees of Portland. Oh, and a loss to one of the worst teams in Liga MX. And judging by the fact that not many of you have joined us, you're probably just as perturbed and peeved as we are. So yes, Los Angeles, we've been better too. A bit sour on a Wednesday night, so forgive me. Maybe a tad bit annoyed over the past few outcomes that we've had. But on the bright note, if we get smoked by Pachuca and Tigres, we don't have to worry about knockout stages in this League's Cup match. And honestly, with as many people here that hate this cash grab tournament, a better question to ask would be, how many of you really care? And I think that's a fair question that we will address lately. And that I mean me, Christian Philly Filament, otherwise known as the Platinum-Haired Flamingo. And I'm introducing to you my podcast partner, now known not as the Bishop of Bufandas and the Ascot Aristocrat and the Sultan of whatever. We now know him as the Gray-Haired Goose. And with that, I give you J.R. Liebert, otherwise known as the Scarf.
The Goose. That's right. It's me. Look, if you guys want to know where that came from, first of all, make sure you guys tune into our One More Sleep episodes because those could be quite entertaining. Hopefully you listened to it on the way to watch the match, except if you did, all the players that we talked about didn't start because Mazatlan pulled a shell game on LAFC, but then again, LAFC pulled a shell game on LAFC. But look, one of my students who listens to the podcast, and I do so appreciate all of my students that do.
Oh, gosh. Now I really have to refrain from bad language.
I know. You already know this. One of them said...
This is water in this glass, by the way.
If he's called the Platinum-Haired Flamingo, you should be called the Gray-Haired Goose. And that... Yeah. No, sometimes it writes itself, people. Sometimes it writes itself. I think that match against Mazatlan, Philly, you ask about what our chances are moving on. Did anybody care? If a tree falls in the middle of BMO Stadium and no one is there to see it, does it even make a sound? I think LAFC's chances by in all intents and purposes losing that match, I think that's it for LAFC's run in the League's Cup. And maybe, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I'll play one on this podcast for a moment. Maybe that's exactly what Steve Cherundolo and LAFC wanted. A little bit of a reprieve from the match after match after match after match. They knew they had to play three. I know that there are 3 Champions Cup spots on the line, so don't come at me for, well, there's still something to play for. I got you. I understand. Thank you. But I think LAFC was perfectly content the way they played last night to not have to worry about the knockout stages of this League's Cup, Philly.
Yeah, look, we asked the question and I ask it, who actually gives a damn about this tournament and these results? Look, if the results come in, sure, we care. We made it to the finals last year. There were a bunch of us that packed in a free play watching the game against the Columbus Crew. So clearly a bunch of us cared. But if we don't make it out of the group stages, which I honestly don't think we will, not against Pachuca and Tigres now, after losing to a crap team like Mazatlan, will it bother many of us? For me, the answer is simple. Yes! Yes! I take every loss harshly. I hate losing. When there's something I'm passionate about, I hate being anything less than the best, whether it is at work, whether it is a broadcaster, whether it is podcasting. Second place to me is the first goddamn loser. I hate losing when it comes to things I care about. And for LAFC to pretty much pull the performance they did against a crap club like Mazatlan, that infuriates me. I don't buy or believe in punting on tournaments. That's a loser's mentality. And this is not the club that we all came to love starting in 2018. We were taught, conditioned, if you will, to believe that we are fighting for every single trophy. And I will stay true to that, and I won't buy into the idea that LAFC is punting. Yes, they put on an absolute mierda of a performance against Mazatlan. But do I believe that they are trying to punt on this tournament? No. And if I ever found out that that was the case, oh, Dios mío, I would probably change my mindset a lot about a lot of things within the culture of this team, the organization, etc. But I don't buy in to that rhetoric. We have a lot of games, and I do agree in the fact that this tournament certainly puts a dent into what our main goal is, an objective, and that's winning the MLS Cup. And there's so many games, and we're not given enough time to really miss this team because we don't have much of an offseason. But I refuse to believe, as somebody who I guess still holds the concept of competition in sport pure to the heart, and yes, cheating has been as prevalent in sports as is the history of this country. But I don't buy, and I hope I don't buy into the idea that LAFC is trying to punt on this tournament. That's all I got to say to start this pod off.
Yeah, look, I think the Mazatlan match determined whether or not LAFC was trying to punt on the tournament. I think they were trying to play with a little bit of house money. I think that they might have known, or maybe they didn't know, and maybe they decided anyway to play with that lineup. They might have known that Mazatlan wasn't playing their A squad in this first match. Maybe. I don't know. I'm just saying. They certainly didn't play their A squad in this first match, and I think that if any of the count them 5, goal-scoring opportunities that LAFC had in the first half that they didn't convert on go in, and LAFC is leading like they should have 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, maybe even 4-0 before they completely fall asleep at the wheel and for most of the rest of the match fall asleep on the pitch. Then I think maybe we play things a little bit differently. But look, we'll talk about this at the end of the recap of this match. All we have left to play now is the very best team in Liga MX in Pachuca up next. They won last year's CONCACAF Champions Cup, people, and they're 3-0-0 in this year's Apertura. And then we get Tigres, who we all know. Tigres will give you their best shot every single time that they come to BMO Stadium. It's going to be next to impossible. I won't say it's mathematically, obviously, impossible yet. But if you see the way some of these clubs are playing right now, LAFC has no shot to be in the top 4, and I'll say it right now. All right, we got a couple things that we get to on each and every episode, this day in LAFC history and news and notes, and we do have a rather big news and note, a particular signing out of Zurich, Switzerland, that I think is a big deal. So let's get to it. First of all, this day in LAFC history, this awful Mazatlan match occurred July 29th, 2025. And on July 29th, in 2019, LAFC acquired Eddie Segura on a permanent basis from Atletico Huila after a by signing a multi-year deal after he had a 6-month loan with us at the start of 2019. All he's done since then, Eddie Segura has become the second most capped player in club history behind none other than Carlos Vela. So again, a little bit of love for Eddie Segura, who looked pretty awful on the one goal that Mazatlan scored in regulation. He got beat. He got caught ball watching, and that happened. But if you're listening to this today or any time after, we are recording this on July 30th. And on July 30th in 2019, unlike Lionel Messi in 2025, Carlos Vela participated in the 2019 MLS All-Star Skills Contest on a team with Jonah Dos Santos and Wayne Rooney. Waza. All right, cool. That was fun. It was actually pretty cool to see those guys and all the different guys that we get to see in these All-Star Skills Contests play together. Philly, the big news is coming out of our partnership, it looks like, with Grasshopper of Zurich, Switzerland. LAFC acquiring a former 2-time MLS All-Star in Matthew Chonier.
It's done as a loan, so obviously we don't have him for a significant period of time. But the young man himself comes by way of Quebec, Canada, a small 5'9" midfielder, if you will. Played a significant period of time for Montreal, 119 caps ish with 11 goals, and then he goes over to Grasshopper. And when I say that, yeah, it sounds kind of funny to me. I would agree. But for those of you who are not familiar with the Swiss First Division, and I can't imagine there are many of you that are familiar with the Swiss First Division, Grasshopper is a pretty good team historically. 27 Swiss championships. They've been runners up 21 times. Like, this is a team that competes very heavily in Switzerland. And with this young man, they have continued to compete. Chonery had featured with the Canadian national team on 17 occasions, should be available to us fairly soon. Obviously, there's other requirements that he has to pass through in order to be a part of our team. But on loan through 2025, you said it, an all-star in 23 and 24. Do we really need that much more depth in the midfield? Coming into this matchup, I would have said no. After this matchup, I'm going to say yes because, look, I'd hate to say it, we don't have any offensive threats when it comes to the midfield. We just don't. And you would have to look no further than the penalty situation to determine that factor. Could this be an individual who could really help bolster the midfield offensively? God, I hope so, because at the very least, we need somebody who has precision and can at least maybe shoot an attempt on target. We don't really have that from the midfield. But that's the story with Chonere, and we'll see what the story is again on loan through 2025, and we'll see what happens. I never know, and you never know. What?
May I help you with the last name pronunciation, if you don't mind, sir?
What did I say?
It's Chonier.
Chonery. That's what I'm going to call him. Chonery. Chonier. Tequila.
Chonier. Look, I don't know how much he's going to...
Chonery until he scores a goal, and I'll call it by his real name. Chonier.
Matthew.
Bottom line is this. Look, whatever the facts I read about him are still the way they are.
That's true.
We need help in the midfield. And honestly, Matthew, to me, you got to earn your stripes.
Oh boy.
You got to earn your stripes. You do on this team. And Scarf, we don't have a great midfield. And until this guy scores a goal, I'm calling him I'll tell Chonies. That's it. I'm going to call him Chonies.
Philly has had tequila, everybody. Look, he's having tequila.
Yeah, it started at happy hour. Not a great idea, nor a great combo.
Actually, Philly started many hours ago, apparently, at happy hour. Listen, Matthew Chonier is a two-time All-Star in this league, a player who represented Montreal quite well over his, from 2018 to 2024. 6-7 seasons for Montreal. He adds some
a stalwart and a very, very good team in the history of Major League Soccer history. Sorry.
Oh, goodness. All right. Let's move. Let's just move on. Matthew, I know you listen to the podcast. We know you're a big fan. I know how to pronounce your name. It's Chonier. We're going to see. Watch. He's going to appear in the chat. He's going to appear in the chat in one of our next episodes. You're going to feel badly. You're going to feel badly. LAFC 2. Falling to Sporting Kansas City 2, 3-1 at Titan Stadium on Sunday, July 27th. They were tied 1-1 till Sebastian Nava picked up a red card and then went down 3-1 to take the loss. Their next match is also at the Titan, Sunday, August 3rd, 7 p.m. against the dumbest named soccer club in all of MLS Next Pro, the Town FC. God, that's dumb. You play in Moraga. That's not the town. Anyways, it's formerly San Jose Earthquakes 2. Come check them out. 7 o'clock at Titan Stadium, Sunday, August 3rd. Philly, let's get right into it. Rip the Band-Aid off. Mazatlan, in the last 34 games, which would have been last year's Clausura and Apertura, they were one of the worst teams in all of Liga MX. If you add their record together in the 2024-2025 dual season, 6 wins, 15 losses, 13 draws. They scored just 26 goals in 34 matches, and they have just 31 points last season in all of the 2 tournaments. 16th out of 18 teams in terms of overall points and a minus 19. And all we got out of LAFC was them falling very, very flat. But Philly, something you pointed out in One More Sleep was how Mazatlan actually comes to play when it comes to the League's Cup in their club's history.
Yeah, going back to 2023, because that's essentially when this really opens up. They topped their group stages. They beat the likes of Austin, the FC Fighting Broccolis. They beat FC Juarez, but they ended up losing to FC Dallas in the round of 32. All right. In 2024, that was a darn good run for them. They lost to the Rev, but after that, they beat Nashville. They beat DC United in the round of 32 and made it all the way into the round of 16, where they fell to Cruz Azul in a shootout. A winning record in League's Cup history: 4 wins, 3 losses, and a draw. So while they have been mierda in Liga MX, they haven't been all that bad in League's Cup. And so when there's an in-season tournament like this, all those records that you talked about prior, for the most part, go out the window. So coming into this battle, the fact that they started off their season thus far having competed in 3 games, and I asked Steve Cherundolo this in the press conference, how difficult it is to prepare against a team that doesn't have a great body of work. He alluded to the scouting department. There's a team that was a 1-1-1, 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss coming into this season. But in the 3 games that they competed in, 2 goals, 2 goals allowed. Not a very good body of work. And we made them look pretty darn good in our home, which is the most frustrating part of it all. And so that's a little bit about Mazatlan's League's Cup history. And we certainly helped them look good here in 2025.
Philly, something that I knew you would appreciate as soon as I saw this over on MLSsoccer.com. There's seedings in this League's Cup. And they put the seedings up next to LAFC
I'm sorry.
and Mazatlan. They put the seedings up next to LAFC and Mazatlan. For example, right now, Real Salt Lake. Who are they playing? Why am I blanking on who Real Salt Lake is playing right now? It's like a 9-10 matchup if you look at the seedings right now, whoever Real Salt Lake is playing. LAFC came into this somehow, and it's obviously because of last year.
They're playing Club America, and they are winning 2-1 in the 85th minute.
There you go.
Oh, and by the way, no surprise, your buddy Brian is the only goal scorer for Club America.
Brian Rodriguez doing things for Club America. Real Salt Lake is the number 9, and Club America is number 10. That's a pretty even matchup. LAFC was the number 6 seed coming into this. Number 6. Mazatlan, out of the 36 teams that are in this tournament, are 33rd in the seeding, and we made them look like world beaters. The first ever meeting, obviously, between LAFC and Mazatlan, but not the first meeting between Coach Robert Siboldi.
No.
That's the guy who beat us while he was coaching Tigres. Look, ultimately, though, Philly, the thing that really bothers me more than anything else out of all of this, it's the fact that we laid an egg not against Mazatlan's best lineup in the first half. And look, by laying an egg, I mean we didn't finish our chances. We actually looked very, very, very good in the first half if you don't count the fact that we didn't finish 5 chances. I can't even say that with a straight face. We looked really good, but we didn't finish our damn chances. But Philly, let me go through the lineup real quick for Mazatlan. And I'm going to tell you how many minutes during this year's Apertura, which is 3 games, 270 minutes possible total, how many minutes some of their starters have played this season.
Do tell, because they only have had one person that normally starting this match. Do tell. In the interim, maybe I should go out and get me another drink. I don't know.
Let's start with their goalkeeper, Ricardo Rodriguez. He has been an unused sub in all 3 matches. Hasn't played a single minute. Angel Saavedra on the back line has played about 130 minutes this season. Defender Lucas Marola, 24 minutes coming into this match. Defender Christopher Castro, an unused sub in all 3 of their matches. And defender Salvador Rodriguez, Philly, has played 7 more minutes than you have so far this season for Mazatlan in the Apertura. Now their midfield, Jorge Garcia and Sebastian Fierro, played a smattering of minutes, more than some of these other guys. but their third midfielder, Alan Torres, an unused sub in all 3 matches. And your front line, the only player that saw any significant action was the goal scorer, Fabio Gomez. And I want to thank our buddy Justin Ruderman for pointing out how few minutes a lot of these guys had actually played coming into this match. But your other 2 strikers between Dudu Teodora and Omar Moreno, a combined 42 minutes on the season of play. There's just no excuse. They didn't play in the Apertura this season. Unbelievable that we gave up a goal in such lackadaisical fashion. I'm just so frustrated with this first half because against that club, we just needed to finish those chances. Philly, so frustrated. Let's get through LAFC's lineup.
Yeah, look, no surprise with so many games coming up in a very short period of time that there was going to be a rotation of people on the roster. We were told this prior. We did know that Hugo Lloris followed the same suit as Sergio Palencia did, in the sense that he was not going to be in the lineup because working on the green card situation. So it was either going to be Ochoa or Hassal that would get the start in between the sticks. And in this case, it was David Ochoa. Starting in the back line, we had Kenny Nielsen, no relation to Angel City's Page, or formerly Page, I should say. Tafari would get the start. Eddie Segura, who in this case was sporting the captain's armband. And Artem Smolyakov, which, by the way, if you go to LAFC games, when the public address announcer yells Artem, it's still so funny to hear the silence when it comes to people yelling Smolyakov. Pay attention to that upon the next game, in this case on Friday. The midfield, Timothy Tillman, Saldana, Frankie Amaya starting in the midfield. Up top, a surprise, David Martinez, Jeremy Abobasi, and Yaboa. And with the amount of just bad play he had, we jokingly referred to him as Yawn Yaboa. I have yet to see the player that scored against us in the 2023 MLS Cup final against the Columbus Crew. That would be your starters. There, we would end up subbing in a whole new lineup for the most part in the 65th minute. Igor Jesus, Marky Delgado, Sergi Palencia, fresh off that green card scenario, and Denny Bouanga would be the other players that would compete along with Nathan Ordaz. And that's your lineup for LAFC. We subbed in our B team against their B team. And for the most part, we did look like an A team in front of 11,209 people, which was a lot more than the anticipated 8,000. We look good, but true to form and true to the case all season long, it doesn't matter what your buildup is. If you can't finish, who gives a damn?
Yeah, I got to give props to a couple short-termers that were called up. I have no idea how short-term contracts are supposed to work in Leagues Cup. I know that you can only call up a guy, I believe it's 3 times on a short-term contract at MLS. Before calling him up a 4th time means that you have to sign him to the first-team roster. I think that's how it works anyway. But the 2 guys that came up were number 55, Eric Diaz, and our 3rd goalkeeper in the match was goalkeeper number 31, Cabral Carter, which was pretty cool. Congrats to Cabral Carter. He's LAFC 2's starting keeper. He's had a pretty good season this year. I don't know who's calling right now. I don't know. This is live, baby.
Who still has a landline? That's a better question.
You know, my parents wanted to keep their landline. So
is it a rotary phone too?
It is not a rotary phone.
Because I have bad dreams about being able to dial calls in emergency, and all I have is a rotary phone, and I keep messing up. Anybody ever have that dream, or is it just me?
I think that was just you. 1941 call. They want their dream back. My goodness. All right,
I'm not that old, you jerk.
Philly, as we said at the top, it should have been 4 or 5-1 at the end of the first half. It's such a frustrating goal that we gave up. But Philly, even before then, it should have been a crooked number. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever you got. And it really, I'll say this, guys. Maybe this is a controversial take. I don't know. But I really thought David Martinez had a great first half. The best half, I think, that we've seen him play in quite a while. And he blew 2 of the biggest chances of the match in this first half. Philly, David Martinez, we've been asking for more from him in terms of body language, in terms of effort, in terms of being in the right place, in terms of finishing chances. And we know, look, we're going to talk about it. He finished the hardest one out of all of them. But your thoughts real quick on David Martinez's first half.
Look, 9 minutes, he almost connects with Yaboa. Yaboa misses out on that. 16th minute, a brilliant pass from Nkosi Tafari. Dude, a gem of a pass. It was that left foot that he just hit off the wrong end of his boot, goes right past Mazatlan's keeper, Ricardo Rodriguez. And then we could look 5 or so minutes later with the onslaught continuing. It would be a Bobasi that hits David, and he hits our old friend's brother. You remember Wall-E Post? Wally Post? Yes, Wally Post. Well, his brother, Charlie Crossbar, was the one that made the save on David Martinez, a paint chipper, if you will. So coming out of the gates, look, LAFC could have easily had a couple of goals, possibly at the very least 2. But we would end up getting a goal out of David Martinez, thankfully, in the right around the 29th or so minute. An incredible pass. And for the most part, as much as a lot of people have complained about Timothy Tillman, and there was something in the chat that I saw that we haven't won a Leagues Cup game with him starting, and I had to look at that. That actually, it's factual. That's not incorrect. No starts from Timothy Tillman in LAFC's victories in Leagues Cup. Coincidence? I don't know. But either way, he had a hell of a pass, connects with David Martinez in stride, one touch, chips it past Ricardo Rodriguez, and boom, goal. So all that hard effort and all that hard work was rewarded because he ended up scoring a heck of a goal, putting us up 1-0, which honestly at that point should have been possibly 2 or 3, but a heck of a goal for David Martinez to start off the game.
Lechero's calling me out in the chat by saying if missing goals is his best half, then we're screwed for the next games. Look, Lechero, you may be right. But it was still, I mean, if you look, I didn't understand, Philly, his obsession with the left foot on that first shot in the 16th minute there, right, where he tries, instead of putting his laces through the ball with his right foot, he opts for like an odd left-footed outside of your foot, excuse me.
It was outside of the foot on that first miss.
Yeah, it was like an outside of the foot toe poke, trying an angle that was next to impossible. But look, he's the one that sets up Jeremy Abobasi. You're absolutely right. He finds the crossbar. Even later in the half, what was it? 41st minute, right? It's him with the cross that gets poorly cleared, and Frankie Amaya doesn't get enough on one. He really was in the mix for each and every one of some of our best goal-scoring chances. I can't complain too much about the half if he's the one that continued to set things up. But Philly, I think what was by far the most frustrating thing, right, is the lack of effort and just completely falling asleep 2 minutes after scoring a goal. I mean, there's no excuse for it. LAFC got caught. It was Kenny Nielsen, by the way, who kept everybody on side. Fabio with the goal after I don't know what Eddie Segura was doing. I mean, he just got caught tracking back, maybe caught his cleat. I don't know what he was going after, but Fabio just goes right around Eddie Segura. And look, all due respect to Fabio Gomez for finishing that goal from a very, very tough angle. I firmly believe that if it's Ugo in goal and not David Ochoa, that maybe we save that. It was from a very tough angle. He banked it off the inside of the goalpost and in. I can't fault the effort, but it was, I mean, 4 or 5 kind of lazy, nothing passes. The ball that trickled in to Fabio looked like something that Eddie should have been able to handle, or at least should have just tracked back with his man and been 1v1 in front of him rather than leaving Ochoa exposed. It was such a disappointing nothing goal from really, Philly, the only offensive opportunity in the entire half for Mazatlan.
I mean, stop me if you have heard this before. Shots on target 1, goals by the opposition 1. We had 8 with 3 on target, 4 big chances that we ended up blowing. They had 1 clear look. They beat us as we were snoozing, and they end up capitalizing. This is a team that doesn't score. 3 games over the course of Liga MX, and they have 2 goals. This isn't a team that scores a lot. Again, just to reiterate, a team that in the last year finished 14th and 16th respectively in the Apertura and the Clausura. a team with not a lot of history as Mazatlan, as a lot of you know, formerly Monarcas Morelia, but as Mazatlan, not a great deal of success. And we end up allowing them, enabling them, if you will, to score moments after we started to finally, creep ahead after all the hard work. It's terrible, man. I mean, with the vast majority of possession that we had, and that's what I anticipated. We talked about it in One More Sleep. When we were feeling ourselves, we were pressuring the ball and we were attacking, and we were quite successful, just unable to score. And they, in the one chance that they had, they beat Ochoa. Frustrating. I think their XG was what? I don't know, 0.3 or 0.03. Either way, not significant. We should have decimated them in the first half, but we didn't. So when you leave the door open, that gives anybody a shred of hope. And you can't give anybody a shred of hope, because when you're competing in the highest of professions, all these players are solid athletes that are able to compete. You just leave a little bit of that door open, and anybody on any given day can beat any given team. I do firmly believe that. That's why no teams go undefeated over the course of a regular season. The last time we had a team that went undefeated that I am aware of in North American sports, you'd have to go back to the 1976 Indiana Hoosiers. I wielded that in. They went undefeated and won a national title. Yes.
I mean, are we talking about up until the Super Bowl? Because my boy did all right for a regular season.
I'm sorry, but they still lost, so that doesn't matter.
They did. I actually am so upset about that still. Either way, Philly, if you guys all thought the first half was bad, don't worry. LAFC's got you covered. The second half, that might have been the worst half that we've played all season. That second half, look, LAFC looked dead coming out of the second half. They did have one opportunity with Jeremy Ebobisse in like the 51st minute that Ebobisse's got to finish. But it really felt like LAFC's players on the pitch knew the script. And Steve Trundlo said there was a script because we asked him about it in the press conference. Forget who asked him about it, but someone asked him about it in the press conference. And he said, yeah, we were going to bring him on either way. Game score didn't matter. Somebody asked the question in the front, did the game score have anything to do with the substitution pattern in the second half? And he said, absolutely not. We were bringing on these guys no matter what. So the script was already written, which means that the players knew, right? And I thought those first 15, maybe 18 minutes or so of the second half, with the exception of that Jeremy Ebobisse opportunity, those players played like they knew the script. Those players played like, hey, it's okay, guys. We got Mark Delgado, Sergi Palencia, Nathan Ordaz, and Denis, as Philly calls him, the Destroyer, coming on in the second half. We are going to just roll over this B squad laden Mazatlan club. Give us 30 minutes and we'll give you all the goals you could possibly want. It was Gunnar that asked him. Thank you, Chris Lafferty. It was Gunnar that asked him. Except when they brought everybody in, we looked worse than we did in the first half, Philly. Worse.
I mean, look, only one shot on target in the second half. 7 shots fired totally. They had more shots on target in the second half than we did. And I don't know, depending on who you're utilizing for stats, on target, I've seen a couple of things. FOTMob said we had the same amount of shots on target that LAFC did. Other statistics on other periodicals have said they actually had more shots on target than LAFC did. Either way, that second half wasn't any better. Like you said, even with our better players coming in the 60 or so, in the 63rd minute. I said to you, we're going to win. Yeah.
First, you talk about a rotary phone. Now you use the word periodicals. I like this. We're taking it back to the older days.
Well, what can I say? I just watched Ozzy's funeral procession, and yeah, I mean, what can I say? We've gone back in time. But either way, they also threw on a bunch of subs. I mean, they brought on the likes of Benedetti, a solid player, and they looked a bit better within the second half. There really are no times to highlight, honestly, at all in the second half. So there's no sense in even talking about it. So we get into the scenario because Leagues Cup, if you have a draw, you go straight into penalties. Philly is a scholar. I appreciate that, LAFC vet. I'd like to think of myself as a scholar. In some cases, a gentleman. Just depends on what I'm drinking at the time. Philly has a word of dare I say, I watched the Paul Rubens documentary not too long ago, and I distinctly remember growing up as a kid watching Pee Wee's Playhouse. When there was a word that somebody would say repeatedly, everybody would go, Jumbie. I don't know. Sometimes it's just fun to not talk about these stupid games because this really was a stupid game. We go into penalties, and to go over every single one is idiotic. What I'll tell you, though, is as follows, and Scarf can attest to that. When Timothy Tillman stepped up 11 meters, 12 yards in front of Ricardo Rodriguez, I looked over at Scarf to the right. I looked over at Gunner. For those who don't know, Gunner is the producer of the Soccer and 60 show, which JR and I have been on countless occasions. That's on ABC Radio. Shameless plug for Soccer and 60. We have a great interview with Jeremy Abobasi. I did that earlier today, so tune into that. When Timothy Tillman stepped up, I looked over at Scarf and said, not happening, not any confidence. And unfortunately, Timothy Tillman made me freaking Philly Stradamus. I don't know what it is about him. He's a fine facilitator, but when it comes to scoring, I have no confidence in Timothy Tillman whatsoever. Timothy Tillman is just not the kind of guy that you want to have firing at goal because he doesn't have the precision. And the way he fired that ball in, you tell me, it just came from a man who's just lacking in confidence. I don't know. That's just what I saw as far as the body language is concerned. Didn't have that conversation with him. I'm not a man who's going to pride himself on being able to read body language, but that just didn't look like a shot fired by a person who was confident in scoring a goal.
Yeah, look, the frustrating part, right, was just like the game. David Ochoa makes a great save on Samir Caetano, a really good save. The one that he guessed right on, by the way, because he looked awful.
What would Samir Caetano do?
He looked awful in most of the other PK attempts. But look,
there's a reason he's been swimming around MLS, Scarf. I mean, there's a reason he's no longer.
I also don't know. I don't know how much research that David Ochoa is putting in outside of this on the guys who barely play for Mazatlan. I don't know what his card said on it, but he makes a great save on Samir Caetano, who, by the way, probably the second most experienced player on the pitch for Mazatlan behind Benedetti. Benedetti, he was fun to watch, by the way. He looked really, really good.
He was my player to watch. Talented kid, no question about it.
That was really fun. But Samir Caetano misses a beautiful save by David Ochoa. And just like in the match, LAFC scores. Great goal by David Martinez. And then they give up 2 minutes later. The very next penalty that LAFC takes, the next round of penalties. So it was Denis Bouanga and then Marky Delgado who put it away. And then Timothy Tillman misses that one. Really frustrating. And look, then it was just make. I thought some of them by Mazatlan were a little bit more confidently taken. But then again, we were worried about players like Artem and Igor and Nikosi. I don't know why I was worried about Artem Smolyakov, but the kids just
it would have been I don't know why you were worried either. I mean, these are guys that are battle tested on different levels. I would say if I had any kind of anxiety, even the slightest bit, it would have been David Martinez, because we saw on countless occasions his body language not the greatest. If there's anything I will say, I have to allude to this. In the 84th minute, something that absolutely irritates me. With time running down, us needing to beat them, he casually jogs into the corner to take a set piece. What are you doing, kid? You look at Denis Bouanga. Denis Bouanga is just freaking running. There's just things that David Martinez does that just irk the hell out of me. One thing that didn't irk the hell out of me, though, is if you looked in the north end, the picture, I believe it was done by the 42 Originals of David Martinez doing the, what a 42 original would do, the puff puff. Hooray! So I appreciated that, but that's where I felt anxiety. David, possibly Tafari, but I wouldn't have anticipated anxiety coming from our talisman, Denis Bouanga.
Look, we had made 8 in a row up until the Denis Bouanga one. And look, you live by the sword and you die by the sword, right? Denis is the absolute one that you would want on the ball. In that situation, the 11th, or actually 12th, was it 12th? Yeah, 12th penalty shot by both sides. Mazatlan making their 11th out of 12 with Benedetti. And then Denny Bwanga giving one of the faithful in the North End, the 3252, a souvenir. Just lifted it up over the bar, and it was, you could tell how frustrated he was, but almost like over it. I don't know. It was hard. It was hard to watch because that's our guy, right? That's who we want. Just like when we were playing against Esperance in the Club World Cup, that's our guy. That's who we want. And unfortunately, Denis has had a couple of moments this season where he hasn't come up big for us. Let's not talk about the 75 moments during the course of the season where Denis Bwanga has put the whole damn team on his back and done everything that he could for us. So I'm not pissed at Denis.
No.
It was a penalty shootout that went 11-10. I mean, look, this tournament, it's just the worst. LAFC has lost both shootouts in their Leagues Cup history. Last year to Vancouver, this year to Mazatlan. Again, it was a tale of two David Martinez's, right? First half, he looked great. Second half, Philly and I said to Philly, I was like, watch, look at him walk over there. Look at his body language. Look. And we were both just like, oh, this kid just can't put 90 minutes together.
He drives me freaking crazy.
Yeah.
Like what are you, look, we've talked about it on countless occasions. His first time away, he's young, but I'll tell you this, like after a while, and of course with the resources he has, at some point you just have to buck up and just be the person who people are expecting you to be. The body language thing is a telltale of all things David Martinez. The kid can be electric and downright exciting. Totally understand what the club saw in him. But there's moments where he just gets so down on himself that it drastically not only affects his performance, but it wrecks our entire offense. So him feeling down on himself for doing something, making a bad pass, a turnover, a missed opportunity, his immaturity costs us greatly in times of need when we need him to step up. That first half, like you said, he was different. He attacked, he contributed. He should have probably had a lot more in terms of offensive contributions than he had. But then like that body language, he was sulking, and that just drives me. It just drives me crazy. It absolutely does. You're getting paid an awful lot of money to play a game. And I get it. I don't have the ability to do so. Who am I to tell a young man what to do? But at some point, son, you got to nut up and do your effing job. I don't care if you're a footballer or a street sweeper. Do your goddamn job to the best of your ability, in particular when your attitude affects everybody else around you. If this is a solo effort, then by all means, dwell on your own instability and immaturity. But there's several other players and a lot of people that pay good money in the stands to watch a team succeed. And when you sulk and you give us that body language, it pisses us all off.
I mean, he's a 20-year-old kid who's coming over from Venezuela for the first time. And
how long are we going to hang on to that scarf?
I hear you, but
it's been a year.
Philly, we put a lot of eggs into a basket that we've seen things time and time again before from. So I think it's more of the fact that we don't have another veteran striker on this club who maybe has connected with David Martinez, who's been able to take him under his wing. I don't know. Maybe Denis Bwanga has. I'm not in the locker room every day, clearly. But it just seems like he takes too many halves or too many, I don't know, too many 30 minutes, like Smurdy was saying in the chat, too many times off in a match. And it shows a little bit too much. Someone's got to get in his ear and let him know, like, look, if you don't want to be here, you got to fake it till you make it. And if you want to be here, you got to continue to fake it till you make it, because you're going to have to make it. And so I get that it pisses a lot of us off, that it's really frustrating. We have to remember, right? This isn't a 27-year-old who's proved that they can do it, that all of a sudden now is sulking because they're in a poor run of form. It's a 20-year-old kid who turned 20 this season and has never been outside of the country, is still figuring everything out, you know? And I don't want to use that as an excuse, because you can't bring him in touting that he's the greatest prospect in the history of Venezuela and give him the keys to the kingdom. But then you sometimes don't, then you sometimes do, because you bring in Javier Del Rosen. So his confidence is doing this and this and this and this. I don't know. If you're not watching on YouTube, I did the up and down arm thing. But I don't want to make excuses for the kid, but it's just something else to think about in the entire narrative that is David Martinez. Now, Philly, all we have to do now is play against the best team in Liga MX on Friday, August 1st.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you straight up, no, I have no faith. I told you a while ago, folks, that game against Club America to enable us to get in to the FIFA Club World Cup was our MLS Cup, and I'm going to hang my hat still on that statement. That was our MLS Cup final. We are not long for the MLS postseason, nor are we going to be long for the League's Cup. I don't see how we can beat Pachuca. I don't see how we can beat Tigres. If we do, hang on to that receipt and I will gladly eat it. I'll put my own darn foot in my mouth. Hell, I'll even go back to OG Philly and do a gosh darn shoey, something I haven't done in an awfully long time. And I'm not talking about a sanitary shoey with the cup in the shoe like I started transitioning on over to. I'm talking about pouring some beer into an actual old shoe and drinking out of it. I will do that. I want to be proven wrong. But in this case, I don't see how it's going to be. And for the biggest look, I am a Dolo in proponent, and I hear everybody's statements, but even I will have to admit, with a scenario where a good portion of our roster is out of contract at the end of the season, where Steve's going to be gone, where we're trying to lure in the likes of a Son, why would anybody want to come to this team when there's so much instability right now and uncertainty? I don't know. The money had better be good in that case. But talking about being unsure, I don't see how he can possibly beat a team as talented as Pachuca. I don't see how he can beat a team as talented as Tigres. I don't. Siboldi knew how to beat us when he was part of Tigres. Oddly enough, they beat us in a penalty shootout. And again, with in the Campeones Cup. Again, he beats us with Mazatlan in the first game of the League's Cup. Maybe Siboldi has our number. I don't know. Maybe he knows how to outcoach Steve. I don't know. But I just don't see how we're going to end up beating a team like Pachuca and Tigres. I'm sorry. I just don't.
Look, you're preaching to the choir at this point, Philly. Pachuca is going to come in 3-2 win over San Diego, who has been one of the best teams in Major League Soccer this season. 3-2 win over them in their lead up to playing us on Friday, August 1st. Tigres on Tuesday, August 5th. I imagine there will be a lot of Tigres fans in attendance. I will say the last thing that I'm going to say, Philly, and I'm done talking about this thing. I was surprised at the absolute lack of support from Mazatlan. It really shows you this is a club, like you said, has only been around since 2020, and that's a rough year to start something. The former Morelia side literally just moved to Mazatlan. I did see one Morelia jersey in the stands, and I saw
a couple, actually.
You're right. And I saw about 3 or 4 Mazatlan jerseys total. Super bummed, by the way, that they weren't playing in their purple. You and I really wanted to see that one. That was kind of a bummer.
Great kids.
But that being said, they took it to us when they had to, and they picked their moments pretty well. We lose 11-10 on penalties. They get 2 points. We get 1. I love how LAFC PR kind of spins it. LAFC draws in regulation. Stop. We lost. This is a loss. Philly, I'm good. Are you good?
Look, this is the lull that we're having as we're getting to August. We had a lull in 2022, and I'm not saying that we're going to go out and win the MLS Cup. Lulls are to be expected. Feel what you want to feel about League's Cup. If you hate the tournament, then honestly, you shouldn't hate the outcomes if LAFC loses. The quicker LAFC gets out of this tournament, the less you have to worry about us paying more money for tickets if you opted in. I don't see how we go further. I have my frustrations. It's been the last 3 games very annoying to lose to a team as untalented as Mazatlan, to lose to Portland at home, and then to lose to the Galaxy in a 3-3 draw. Yeah. All frustrating endeavors, completely frustrating. So I'm on board with a lot of you. I know there's so many people that have their thoughts about coach in, coach out, so on and so forth. I'm going to refrain from those thoughts. I'll bestow my thoughts on them later. Not going to say that they've changed, but yeah, these are frustrating times, and we're with you. And we're We're not going to give you toxic positivity because I don't have it. I think this is not a great LAFC team, but it's not the worst. And I've seen a lot of comparisons to some of the worst teams. This is not by far not. That's not the phrase I'm looking for. This is not the worst season that we've had. Go back to 2021. Check out LAFC's record then. We won 12 games that year. We lost 13. We drew the rest. I don't see this team being that. We will be a playoff team, which will mean we are not the worst team in LAFC history because 2021 was the worst team in LAFC history. So see what we can do. Still plenty more football to be had. Pachuca on Friday. One more sleep to be had on Thursday. And then we've got Tigres again for the third time. I like Leagues Cup. I like seeing the Liga MX team. I personally like Liga MX. I think it's a fun freaking league. And as a guy who was a Euro snob for the longest time, I've really grown to love and appreciate Liga MX. So if there's anything I take from it, is the fact that I like seeing teams like Tigres, Pachuca, and I love doing my homework on Mazatlan. And for those of you who drink a Pacifico from here on out, just know this. From Mazatlan, founded in the 19th century or so, by German immigrants. And that's it. I'll leave it at that.
I'm boycotting Pacifico until the end of the tournament just because LAFC lost. That's all I have to say. We'll be there in the press conference against Pachuca. We'll be there in the press conference against Tigres. Phillies had tequila, everybody. And with that,
Chonies.
bye-bye.